Welcome, guys. I'm Kristen. I work in Tom's River Children's.
And my name is Hope. I work in Tom's River Adults.
I'm Sean. I work in the Tom's River Makerspace.
And I'm Casey, and I work in Lakewood in the Teen Zone.
Our topic for today is going to be superheroes. So, yeah. So we're going to start off with the big question everybody wants to know whenever you talk about superheroes. Are you Marvel or are you DC? Kristen, you want to start?
This is a really hard question. I guess I came down on a mostly Marvel. I'm a DC for Batman. I love Batman, but he's kind of only my guy over there. I'm not really into anyone else. So mostly Marvel. I love all the Avengers. I love Venom. Specifically Venom. He's great.
Is he a superhero though?
Sometimes he's a lethal protector.
He's an anti-hero, probably, was the best way to...
anti-hero.
Sometimes he's just got a lot going on.
Yeah.
He's more interesting. He's more interesting when he's not just beefing with Spider-Man.
True.
So, anyway.
That's fair.
I will say I basically have the exact same experience. I am a bigger Marvel fan because I've seen all the Marvel movies, all the shows, spin-offs. I'm more familiar with those characters. I mean, I do like some DC, but it is also mostly Batman. Like the Batman and like the Bat family, but that's pretty much all I know. And then I guess if I had to say, I know I didn't ask this question, but since Kristen said she liked Venom so much, my favorite superhero in the Marvel TV universe would probably be Hawkeye. I don't know, I just think it's like cool that he just has a bow and arrow and he fights robots and everybody else. And he's an ordinary guy. So what about you, Sean?
I grew up reading Marvel comics. I know like the exact, like I was in like fourth grade when one of the cool kids had a comic book and it had Wolverine on the cover. And I was hooked instantly. Again, Batman is awesome. I like Superman's cool too, but just for the overall artwork, storytelling, everything, I am wholeheartedly Marvel.
I like them both. I tend to be more Marvel movies and more DC comics.
Interesting.
I prefer the Marvel movies to the DC movies, but I love the DC comics as opposed to Marvel comics. And I would say my favorite in Marvel is the Hulk, and my favorite in DC... Honestly, I feel like my favorite in DC is The Question, but no one knows who he is, so I'll say Superman. I love Superman.
No, I know who the Question is.
I do too.
Oh, yay!
He definitely was in like at least one episode of Justice League Unlimited.
Yes, definitely, yeah.
Yes, he's in Justice League Unlimited. I love him. He's voiced by the same guy who voices Herbert West, Reanimator.
I will admit I have never heard of him.
It's a horror movie. Don't let me get you off track.
Oh, okay.
Question, he basically looks like Dick Tracy, the old-timey detective guy, but with a blank face.
Yep.
That does sound like horror. All right, so our next question is, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but are you a comic superhero person or a movie superhero person? Continue on that one, Casey.
Yeah, I like comics more. Literally on my desk, I know the people at home won't be able to see it, but I have Kingdom Come.
Oh, nice.
Superman Red Sun. And then there's the Dark Knights of Steel, which is superheroes, but in medieval times. So you could say I like the comics more, which I guess probably speaks more in favor to DC, considering I literally just told you guys I like DC comics more than I like Marvel comics.
Have you read Red Sun yet?
I have not, which is why I'm
the
excited.
ending is mind-blowing. When you get to the end, we'll have to talk someday about it.
Oh, you know you want to finish it.
It'll be a new podcast.
Yeah. And there's also the DC animated version of that too, though they leave out the end of, I think they leave out the end of it, but like the comic version, but it's still good.
Sean, you want to talk then about some of your favorite?
I am both comic book and superhero movies. Like I will watch every movie. I have seen Avengers Endgame probably like 15 times. Infinity War, I don't even know, I lost count. I will watch them over and over again. They are everything I wanted as a kid. As an adult, like to see those characters on the screen, like everybody come together. That's all I ever wanted as a kid to see. And yeah, the comics I still read. Jonathan Hickman just did a great run on X-Men. It was really cool. The Krakoan era, it's over now, but it was really good. I haven't really been into new Avengers stuff, but again, Jonathan Hickman did a great Avengers story a few years back. Miles Morales, Miss Marvel, all great.
Sean, I know this isn't a movie per se, but what about X-Men 97? You see that?
I haven't gotten around to watching it yet, but I've seen so many spoilers, so I know. But yeah, I fully plan on watching that. And I kind of really want to rewatch the original X-Men 9, like from 97.
I
One of these
wasn't
days I'll get
born
around to
yet, but it was a
it.
nostalgia.
Oh, that
Sean just crumbled to dust.
I did.
Oh no.
Thanos has snapped again.
My my joints started aching. My beard got whiter.
Well, I guess I will carry on with that question. So I am probably also more of like a movie shows because I've watched all the Marvel movies, like all the shows. So I really enjoy watching them on the big screen. And I do try to read some of the comics. I'm kind of a very casual comic reader. My problem is I'll be reading along and enjoying it, and all of a sudden it's a crossover, and there'll be like these random people I've never met in my life, and I'm like, wait, what happened? I mean, that's what happened.
Yeah.
I was reading the Ms. Marvel, the one that came out in like 2013 or something, and I was enjoying it, and all of a sudden it was Civil War II, and I was like, wait, what's happening? So that was the end of that. But some of my favorite graphic novel runs, I mentioned Hawkeye. I love Matt Fraction's Hawkeye, which is why I really enjoyed the show too, because they pulled heavily from that. Also, Ed Brubaker's Captain America. That was a fun one. And then pretty much the only DC comics I've read, I did the new 52, the DC, the Batman, and the Nightwing.
I was gonna say the new 52 didn't last very long.
Well, I was trying to figure out where to start.
Good people.
But then you don't have that much to read, though.
That is true. I was like, where do I start? And I was like, all right, they rebooted everything, so I'll just start here. I mean, I enjoyed Nightwing. He's probably my favorite now, DC character, because he was raised to be Robin, and then he grew up and had to discover who he is and did his own thing. And like, I enjoyed the whole like fact that he's a circus kid. I mean, I guess Hawkeye is a circus kid, so I guess I haven't.
He's like circus people.
I guess so, but there was one controversial choice they made where he got shot and he lost his memory and his personality changed, and people were like, "Oh, that's terrible." And I was like, "This is an accurate representation of what would happen." So
Also, like, you can't complain in a comic. Like, Red Hood exists, and like that guy died.
that is true. Yeah, I enjoyed Red Hood. I read that too.
What was the Nightwing getting shot? Was that the one where they then transitioned him into being like a super spy or something?
Yes. Then they faked his death and a whole bunch of confusing stuff happened and there were crossovers and I kind of lost steam. But
Maybe not appropriate for this, but I'm just saying. But there was a comic book where nobody was able to recognize Dick Grayson in the comics. There was like some kind of thing that the organization he was working for did to people where they couldn't see his face or recognize his face. But Batman in one panel recognized his butt and was like, I would know that. And I'm like, that's a weird thing.
It's actually less weird because it wasn't Batman. It
wasn't Batman?
Another superhero character that kind of dressed like Batman that was into like the leather and everything, but it was not actually Batman.
Oh, it wasn't Batman? Okay.
But see, I wonder if that's a shout out because there's an internet meme. This is gonna go off topic. There's an internet meme where people were like, "How would Bruce Wayne prove he wasn't Batman?" And there were jokes that were like, Bruce Wayne would like joke about dumb things like, "We don't have the same butt," and they'd be like, "Does the butt match?" So maybe that was a call out to that.
Maybe.
Very weird meme.
That is very strange. But transitioning it back to me.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'm much more of a movie superhero person, but I feel like I read very specific comics. Like I own a copy of Mad Love, which was the comic that introduced Harley Quinn based on the episode of the animated show that was her actual introduction. I actually own a couple Harley Quinn comics. I read the last run of Suicide Squad, or the one that came out maybe between the movies. I don't know. I read a bunch of them. I don't know when that happened. And I read, I think, the last Venom run when Eddie and Venom had a symbiote baby together. I don't know if this is going to make it. Venom had a baby, but wouldn't tell Eddie about it. Eddie just kept waking up places, being like, "What's happening?" And finally, the superhero was like, "Yeah, Venom's pregnant, and it's just like puppeteering you around town, doing like baby stuff."
Wonderful.
Interesting.
And then Venom gets stolen, and Eddie has to wear their baby, and then their baby gets the guy who got Venom and like makes him brain dead, and then wears him around like a suit, and it's like, "I'm gonna go explore the world, fathers," and they're like, "Wow, they grow up so fast."
You're going to have to tell me what that was because I want to read that.
It was a very interesting run. So I feel like I read very specific comics only when I'm like, this sounds interesting.
Well, Venom, or not Venom, Eddie's son became Venom, or is Venom currently, I think. Eddie became some type of god of the symbiotes.
Yeah, that's like, there's always often like, one of the reasons I love Venom is every so often there's a weird just thing. Like in one of them, you find out that Venom's a weird freak amongst his people who believed in like symbiotic relationships, like it was some kind of weird cult. And they were like, "Guys, that's not possible." And he's like, "I will find my perfect match."
It was Flash Thompson,
Yes.
who was Venom for a little while, and he was out with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And then they found Venom's home planet of Clintar?
Real name.
Yeah.
It's just like the symbiotes.
And so it was that the Venom symbiote was actually corrupted, and then it was not supposed to be an evil symbiote. And then they fixed it, and then he became more of a hero. And then somewhere along the line, he got scrambled up again and became evil, monstrous Venom instead of the sleek, gun-toting Venom.
In a superhero world, you're like one bad cup of coffee away from becoming a supervillain. It's Eddie's.
That's fair.
So, while we're talking about our favorite characters, is there a character that you wish got more mainstream attention?
See, this is my question, so I want to say it's Static Shock. We need a Static Shock movie. They kept saying they were going to make one, and they haven't made one, and then they threw up DC's whole future plan, and I'm like, where is the Static Shock movie? It was the best cartoon I've ever seen in my life. I don't care that half the episodes are very special episodes. They were so much fun. Static Shock needs to come back. The kids need to know about him.
I would die to have a noir movie with the Question. It would be so good.
I thought you were going to say the Spider-Man noir from like the Into the Spider-Verse movie, played by Nicolas Cage. I thought you were going to say that, which I think they might be making a series.
But no, I want a Question noir movie with conspiracy theories. I need it so bad.
You're like, make this for me right now.
I'll write it. I won't write it, but I'll write it.
We'll just text James Gunn. We'll tweet him. He's still on Twitter. So,
like, we're a library. Do this for us. Support your local library. Make this movie.
we're like, we heard you're still planning stuff. How about this?
I mean, they're still going forward with the DC whatever movie universe.
Yeah, a photo of Superman just came out the other day and the new suit, so it's going.
He finally laced up his boots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the character again that was they're doing a movie?
Sorry, this one?
Yeah.
Superman?
Superman.
Yeah. They're making a new Superman movie.
Who's going to be Superman?
I forget his name.
Some like youngish guy.
New guy.
They're doing Origin again, but not depressing.
Mm.
Because Zack Snyder ruined it.
We don't talk about that.
I liked the Zack Snyder Man of Steel movie. I really did. Like,
Judge, I actually haven't watched it. I skipped right to the next movie, and then it was like, what is happening?
wait, so you skipped Man of Steel and you watched Batman versus Superman?
Yes.
Oh, you got to watch Man of Steel was good. I liked it.
I don't know. I've only seen the part where his dad's like, "Let me die."
Oh.
So you have time, which is like which is the worst. Like, he can run so fast. No one would have noticed that Clark saved him.
Don't you know you can't be a superhero unless your dad dies tragically?
This is like
Or mom.
Or mom.
This is like only I feel like you will get this. This is like how the Jedi only run fast in like the beginning of Phantom Menace and never again.
Yes. That is true. Different type of superhero. So anyway, before we get sidetracked again, Sean, what was your mainstream, what you wish got more mainstream?
I like Miles Morales Spider-Man. I know they made Into the Spider-Verse and what's the second one? Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
So I like both of those movies. I think he's a great character. I maybe a hot take. I think he is a better Spider-Man than Peter Parker.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm saying it. I put my foot down.
we're gonna get messages
I know.
after this podcast comes out.
I think Spider Pig was a better one.
Well, he's Spider-Ham.
Spider Ham, that's it.
Spider Pigs and the Simpsons.
He's Peter Porker, the
it.
spectacular Spider-Ham. But yeah, I think Miles Morales is a great character.
Wait, did you play the video game?
No, I'm not a gamer. I don't play any of the.
You're missing out.
Yeah, it was good.
It was a good game.
But I think he should definitely be. I don't know. After Tom Holland's done playing Spider-Man, I feel like maybe he's got like 3 more movies left in him or something. Then I feel like they should shift to the Miles Morales Spider-Man. But that would entail killing off Peter Parker.
No. I
So
think they should go on vacation somewhere.
I think we should make another Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie as a joke and really
I
confuse
think they should
everybody.
make another Tobey Maguire. Spider-Man movie
Yes.
as a
I
joke.
feel like I've heard rumors that they were going to make one Tobey Maguire or one Andrew Garfield. Who knows
I
if
don't
they'll.
think that one's going to be in Madam Web, and then.
Oh
I don't know how
yeah.
that turned out.
Madam Web.
Yeah.
And then
One
there's
of the best lines ever written. What was it?
he was with my mother in the Amazon researching spiders when she died, or
Yes.
and then there's a rumor there's a Peter Parker maybe in the new Venom movie, but a child.
Interesting.
I mean, once you start working with the multiverse, anything's possible. So I'm going to leave the Marvel universe, and for what character I wish the whole like Batman, the Bat family got more attention, because I did not really know they were a thing until I was reading the comics. And in the movies, Batman's always a loner. He's like, no, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to do it alone. I don't need nobody. But he's like a dad with all these superhero kids, and that's why I wish we had more. He's got his sons in the form of the Robins. You have like
His actual son.
yeah, his actual son,
Damian.
Damian. Yes. There's Batwoman, who like I don't know where she came from or why she's a Batwoman, but she's there. So
That's like the best part about Batman. He's like a secret identity, but all of these children have figured out and then live in his house. And nobody's like, he has like 27 Robins and there's like 27 little boys living in Bruce Wayne's house. I wonder if these two thoughts connect.
But not all at the same time.
No.
I think the idea of any type of superhero mantle is that it goes on, like when Batman died or Bruce Wayne supposedly died, then Nightwing, Dick Grayson, took over as Batman, just so that there was always a Batman in Gotham.
Mhm.
Like,
But-
here's Jason, here's
Right.
Damian, and then there's some of the
Yeah.
there's Barbara, like there's so many people. They do deserve more, like
they need more attention.
they need more
And,
attention.
and the only one that stayed dead so far is Alfred.
Yeah.
They killed poor Alfred recently,
No.
and I don't think they're going to bring him back.
I like the Batman movie with Robin in it. I'm like,
The,
yeah,
the Clooney one?
no, the
The Lego Batman one.
no, I was saying the Val Kilmer one, the one where they're fighting
Two-Face and
Two-Face and the Riddler. I like.
Robin was in that one?
Yes, because Robin, there's a part in Robin, they're climbing up a mountain, and Robin goes, holy rusted metal, Batman.
Oh,
And
yes.
he goes, fun. He's like, this mountain's it's made of rusted metal and it's full of holes. It's so stupid, but I love it so much. I'll be there with you, Hope, and then we should see more of the Bat family.
The Bat family.
Sometimes they hang out with Static Shock, so they could hang out together.
I think the thing is that the movies don't last long enough to like establish where he could have a protege, at least introduce a Robin. The Christopher Nolan movie, the last one, kind of introduced the concept of Robin at the end.
I just had a flashback to being in the theater and them being like, my name is Robin.
Yeah, it was not the best, but
That's why, sadly, I do think animation is almost better for a lot of these superheroes, because you can easily be like, we don't have to worry about losing our actor halfway through the
Right.
the run of this.
That is true. Allows them to expand more.
What's just so mad about the DC movies is that for so long they really had a solid hold of animation. Like
Yeah.
everyone I knew watched Batman the Animated Series, everyone watched Justice League Unlimited, and then when they had to make it live action, they were just, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, you did it for like 15 years.
Right.
Just film that.
right, you had the foundation. Just
Yeah.
base it on the animated stuff you've already done, and you will have a success.
Like, you make a live action episode at that time. Superman brought John home for Christmas and you found out that Superman used to look at the presents with his x-ray if his parents wrapped them in lead. Like, I will watch a live action movie of that. I don't care. Just like
So, well, moving on, if you were a superhero, what would your power be and why?
I would teleport because I hate going to the airport so much. I just think it'd be so great to like have a little Doctor Strange portal and just step into it instead of going to the airport.
Okay, she's not looking to like save the world. She just wants to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible.
I mean,
It's
that was
very
also what I
true.
wrote down. So I think
Is it?
yes.
Same.
Oh,
All the ladies want to teleport.
I was thinking more along the lines of a superhero power set, and I was thinking like if I had to pick, even though I'm a Marvel fan, I would go with Superman. He just seems unbeatable, like invincible,
So,
like
Sean,
all
if you
cool
had to
powers.
pick, you'd just go with everything,
Well, no, like Superman's powers. I mean,
which
yeah.
is everything, pretty much.
Well, then you could also like who's the guy like Mimic from the X-Men comics? Like he can just
Yeah.
like mimic all superpowers.
You're like, I'm gonna be rogue and steal
I'm
everyone's power, and then
yeah.
I'm gonna diffuse it. Yeah, I too don't wanna. I want to think about being at Disney or Universal, and I want to just be there. I don't want to have to go through like. I just want to.
PSA.
Yeah, I'm just gonna teleport and be like, I'm gonna get some food.
The downside to Nightcrawler's powers is he can only teleport places that he's seen.
It's okay.
If you're a Nightcrawler, if you go Doctor Strange's route, that's a different thing. But
That's
like
what I said.
Nightcrawler,
It's okay. I've seen Disney.
Is a picture enough, or do you have to have physically been there?
I think a picture might be enough.
There you go. We have the internet.
Because I feel like they've shown him in somebody's like using like Jean Grey's powers and show him like a picture in his mind where to go. Like I
Yes.
feel like they've shown him
Yeah,
where to go.
that could be a thing. But also, as Nightcrawler, you can't possibly know if you're teleporting someplace. Maybe somebody parked a car where you think, and now you're teleporting inside of a car.
So like I believe there's some sort of weird rule.
I don't know.
Because two masses cannot occupy the same
He just
space.
lands above it.
Yeah, but he would teleport inside of.
The car. But then you just teleport out of the car.
No, not inside of, into the car. Like half of him as part of the car.
Is it the Philadelphia experiment where that happened? It was there's
Oh, I don't
like
know. But there was a comic where he teleported and a villain, Bastion maybe, who was like a part Sentinel human hybrid thing, put his hand into Nightcrawler's chest as he was teleporting, and then like it fused into his chest and killed Nightcrawler temporarily. Like everybody comes back eventually, but yeah, that was like back in the.
I was right. They were attempting to ship through like time, space, whatever. And there were people on the ship. And as they were trying to shift them through time and space, supposedly they got locked in the floors and became part of it because they couldn't complete it. And that's what the Philadelphia experiment is.
Interesting. But that's like the Star Trek thing, right? Like where they say that the Star Trek teleporters aren't actually teleporting people, that they're like
Killing or replacing them.
yes, killing them and then like cloning them on planet side or back onto the ship, that it's not like the same person.
That's true because sometimes they end up with two of them.
Do they? I'm not that big of a Trekkie. I don't know.
Or they swap bodies.
Yeah.
That's a
Remember Kirk split into two people one time.
I must have missed that.
That
one.
was an original trick.
But yeah, I would also do teleporting. My biggest thing, not just airports, but like driving to work. I wouldn't have to worry about my commute.
You
or
could leave at
parking.
8:59.
I could, yes.
Just teleport to your desk.
Exactly. So I think I will risk teleporting into things for that power.
As somebody who has struggled with punctuality forever, I can definitely get on board with that. Like just teleport right to the time clock,
Yeah.
swipe in, and then to your desk.
So now that we've picked our powers, what would your code name be? So I guess I'll start because I want to be a teleporter. I was not creative. I could not think of anything. So I went to our friendly neighborhood chatbot and asked for it to come up with superhero names for a quote, a woman who can teleport. And this is what it gave me. Teleportress.
Teleportress.
Dimensional dame. If I want to exist in the 1940s noir superhero.
Now I have to see what I can come up with.
Portal princess. If I want to be royalty. Or Nexus navigator. Which I got a nice ring, but not as cool. But those are my top choices. But I think teleportress. I want to like poof in somewhere, dramatically save someone, and when they ask like, "Who are you?" I'll go, "I am the teleportress," and then I'll dramatically teleport away.
Okay, there's been enough time with me to come up with a good name. I'm like, I have to wait on the name. I have trouble naming like my dolls when I was little. I'm like, I can't come up with a superhero. It'd take me like a month to come up with a name.
You would get stuck with the name that the media called you then.
I know. I'd have to wait to save people until I like came up with one.
I want my powers for purely selfish purposes, to not use the airport. So if I had to have one, it would just be Casey, but instead of like spelled out, it's just the letter K and the letter C.
I wrote if I had to use my power, like for selfishly teleportation, if I had to use powers to save people, I'd want the power to control plants.
Plants.
I don't know. That just seems like they're just everywhere. I just feel like it's an easy like, and you can kind of use it out with not being too aggressively.
True.
Sometimes like if you're super strong, everyone's like gonna pick this heavy thing up for me, and I'm like, no, I just do plants.
All right, so I was trying to use an AI to create a superhero name for myself. I don't know. I feel like I grew up reading comics in like the 90s. And so a lot of the things were adding dark or night before a name like Darkhawk or Night Thrasher or Nightwing.
You can't call yourself Night Thrasher because people are gonna think you're a killer.
That's actually a superhero already. He exists. Night Thrasher is a character. He's great. He's from the New Warriors. I was a big fan of the New Warriors in the 90s.
I would call out for help.
From the Night Thrasher.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, he was kind of like a vigilante, and now they've revamped him a little bit. He's still a vigilante, but more like Iron Man street level vigilante. Like he has like armor, and anyway, that's the whole thing. Supernova, I think, is a cool name, but that's kind of a weird. I don't know.
How does it tie into your
Superman
powers?
I put create a superhero name based on Superman's powers. So it says referencing his immense power and the exploding star.
You could be like, what was that guy from Megamind? Titan, but spell it Tighten because
terrible.
Titan is copyrighted.
What's that?
Sunspot.
Sunspot is a character.
Oh, okay.
Sunspot already exists. I know that's the thing. It's so hard to
take 2 words and put them together.
It really is hard to. Well, I think when I was a kid, I used to look through the dictionary and look for like cool words and think, could I create a superhero based on this word? But I never got very far with it. But something like Gambit, even Gambit, to make a superhero based on that word, or maybe it wasn't, or to give him that code name is genius.
I always do wonder if they sit around, like in universe, would you just be a superhero sitting around being like, and I'll call myself Gambit.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. The chicks will dig it.
Right, Wolverine, like, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I feel like that was one of those ones that was like given to him.
Maybe.
Or
Yeah.
maybe
That was a full scene in X-Men First Class.
Yeah.
Of how we got the codename Wolverine?
Not Wolverine. Wolverine told, I can't say the word that he said to Charles and Eric, but
Yeah. There's the scene in when all the kids are trying to come up with their cool superhero names, and it's all like, it's really embarrassing and cringy at first because it's not good.
Would probably all end up like in Shazam, where like people just call them whatever.
Shazam is the worst. Like, how do you tell anybody your name? Like, you say your name and then you lose your power, and then like it's just the worst code. Like, he was Captain Marvel, but then DC lost the lawsuit to Marvel over the name Captain Marvel. So
he's Sparkle Fingers.
Sparkle Fingers. Is that what they called Thor in Ragnarok? Didn't the game was it the Game Master? What's his name?
Yeah.
It's the Grandmaster.
Let's call him Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum, yes. Yeah, he basically played himself. But yeah, he was Sparkle Fingers or whatever.
The next question is, so Batman, Iron Man, and Black Widow, there are 3 examples of characters that we call superheroes, but they don't actually have superpowers. So what trait do you think it is that makes a regular hero instead of superhero?
Trauma? No.
Yeah.
I was like, you said those 3, and I'm like, well, a depressing childhood and...
That is true. Your parents are murdered, and so you grew up to become a superhero. But
I don't know that did Tony Stark have a traumatic childhood?
Depending on which run of Iron Man you look into, changes his level of traumatic childhood.
There was a thing recently where he wasn't actually the child of,
Yeah, there was a thing where his parents were and his parents.
yeah,
His dad normally is depending on which run of the comics you read. The
Right.
movie kind of
glosses
set
over
that
that a
up,
little
and
bit.
then kind of once I think they cast someone to play his younger dad and then wanted you to like him, pulled away from that a little bit and just had him be like emotionally neglectful. Not
Ugh.
good, but less.
I thought they were going more for like that era of the dads that were like very strict and expected their sons to, behave in a certain way.
Well, and I feel like there's like a thing people kind of talk about. No one really talks about it because in the Agent Carter show, this whole thing, when Howard Stark gets like drugged to like, and he's told like it's like a compulsive thing, and he's told he's supposed to be looking for Steve, but he's actually like gassing New York or whatever. They don't ever like break the compulsion really. So people are like, do you think he spent the next decades looking for Steve because they never really stopped that? And like Tony was just being neglected over here because he was poisoned 30 years ago.
I never watched Agent Carter. I think I watched maybe the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then I couldn't get into any of the Marvel TV shows after that. I think it's a fine line between maybe stupidity and courage that makes a hero. Like it's a very fine line. But I think so maybe it's just that to have it's like when people run into burning buildings, they just have that moment of courage to run in there and do those things. And maybe in terms of superheroes, it's the idea of nobody else is going to do it. And so somebody has to be the one to do these things, to right these wrongs or whatever.
I just thought it was funny. The three characters you picked were the three characters that'd be like bad childhoods, low self-worth. Like they all have like the same. Like if you'd been like Hawkeye, I mean, he didn't have a great childhood either, but like I felt like it was significantly not as bad as seeing your parents gunned down in front of you, or
I don't know that I know what Hawkeye's, besides being in the circus, I don't know where his
parents?
I think his parents died and he was raised by the swordsman who was, a villain, and he had issues with his brother. That sometimes his brother would like make trouble.
Who was his brother?
Barney?
Was his brother a character? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Movies, but like he does. I remember hearing about him in the comics. So everyone has an evil sibling.
Yes, he was the evil sibling.
Okay.
An evil sibling or an evil twin or an evil cousin.
So for my traits, I think of as like a superhero, they tend to have access to technology.
Okay.
They have lots of money to like overcome the fact that they don't have powers. They're also are highly like trained physical condition, which most like your average rescue worker, like they're not going to be trained to do all these
like
amazing
trained
fighting
in every fighting form known to man, like Batman. But I will say, there was, so again, maybe controversial, but there was a thing that went around or maybe not recently, but they talked about like Batman. And they were like, if Batman really wanted to help Gotham, he should just pay taxes, and that would do more for Gotham than any of his crime fighting. And that,
because like I feel like in the animated show they show how much money Bruce Wayne puts into like Arkham to try to help all the people get mental health resources. They just keep breaking out and acting like fools. Like it's not his fault. He's clearly trying to get the mental health resources.
But there was a storyline where it was theorized that Batman himself was like a patient in Arkham, and the people that he fights, like Joker and Harley Quinn and Penguin and all, like that they were just people who worked in Arkham in various capacities, and that they were the villains that he was just imagining. But
the other thing that I thought would make
we got Casey's code name, right?
Yeah, she was Casey.
Oh, Casey, right. Casey, the selfish teleporter. Just there.
Yeah, exactly.
I would put that on my uniform.
It's not the selfish teleporter.
You look at someone, save me. No.
Don't expect me to help you. Right across the front.
You just teleport out.
I'm just teleporting.
Like I just came here to grab some chips. I'm gonna leave.
You just wear a shirt that says like here for a good time, not for a long time. Like I'm in and out.
So Casey would not be a superhero.
No. I think superhero is just the desire to help somebody, and like actually going through with it. Like even Superman would say that Batman is a superhero because A, they're best friends, and B, he admires that even though he can't do everything that Superman can do, he still tries to fight for what's good. And I think that's what makes a hero.
I think you also have a little bit of vigilantism because if you are like a normal hero, you have to operate within the boundaries of societal laws. Or Batman, he just stops the bad guy. He's looking for the crimes. He stops him. He beats him up. He ties him up. He leaves. And then the police have to come in and like Gordon's like, I can't even because he doesn't have any oversight.
Yeah.
How do those crime scenes work out? Because that's definitely not on the up and up.
I feel like I just saw something recently, and maybe it was a clip from like the old Dean Cain Superman from the 90s, where he had arrested two guys, and then the cops show up, and they're like, "Okay, you're free to go." And he's like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "You didn't read them the Miranda rights," and then they just had to let them go. So yeah, I don't know.
That kind of leads into our next question. Just because a superhero can do something, does that mean they should? Now we're going into all the moral, ethical debate.
With this one, I would like to bring in the example. I don't know if our teenagers should be reading this, but in general, Watchmen, when there's nuclear war, there's a prospect of nuclear war. So how one of the heroes deems to fix it is by basically committing genocide, but it fixes the problem. So should he have committed genocide? Of course not. That's one of the big examples I think of. But also, there's the other thing that Superman, who obviously is the exact opposite of Ozymandias, he is going to do what he thinks is right for everybody. Even if everyone is saying, maybe don't do that, he's going to be like, I'm going to do what's right. So I see both sides.
Well, I think the idea with the Watchmen was they created like a bigger villain, a bigger thing that united everybody against the common enemy, like Independence Day with Will Smith, where there were aliens invading the world. So all the world governments came together to fight the aliens, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's peace built on he made a time-traveling squid bomb.
Right.
It's based on a lie that Rorschach has written down and sent off to his favorite conspiracy network. Right. So, like, how long is... I mean, granted, the people are going to read that and be like, yes, the richest guy in the world definitely made that squid monster. It's, it's just like a house of cards in that situation. Mm-hmm. Even though that's one of the best endings ever. But, like, I did it 37 minutes ago. Oh, such a good ending. Oh,
yeah.
God.
My response is... I don't watch superhero movies, so ponder these dilemmas. And honestly, I don't think the superheroes ponder them very hard either. Because like you have Captain America Civil War, they're like, oh, peace, security versus freedom. What should we do? And they're like, whatever, we're just going to fight each other in the airport.
Right, because that's never resolved, really. Like the Superhero Registration Act, that was the thing in the comic books that there was Civil War. I don't know how many years ago it was now. But again, they did basically the same storyline where there was an accident and people were killed, and then some superheroes decided to register.
What happened was there was a Hulk out. Hulk hulked out and killed a bunch of people.
In the movie, but in the comic for Civil War, there was a guy who had like a power that was kind of like a nuke, nuked a city. So like
Nitro, yeah.
That's a little bit more of a like real threat. Like I get people being like, I don't know if I like this guy with nuclear powers walking around. But a little bit more real than like just like the Hulk fighting 30 people.
That is true.
Yeah, I think it's a fine line with superheroing and super villaining, even I'm making up words, because the super villains think that they're doing the right thing too. Like Dr. Doom, when he's like, I'm going to take over the world, he thinks that he's doing the right thing and he's imposing his will. And then you have superheroes and then they're like, yeah, we're going to stop you. But who's to say the world wouldn't be better under Dr. Doom's reign? Maybe everybody.
That's like Magneto. Like, is Magneto right a lot of the times?
Yeah. Magneto was right.
Not all the time, because he wants to kill everybody, but the fact that Magneto's always like, I don't know if I trust you, and everyone's like, nope, it's fine, and he really should just be like, guys, I was in the Holocaust, because I feel like people would be like, okay, maybe a little bit more leg to stand on with this whole this is not going to work out.
No
Unfortunately,
matter
I
what
feel like
Magneto does, Charles Xavier's like, come on, that's just my best friend.
I love their relationship. They're like the best characters ever because he just lets him do anything.
I feel like Magneto's having been in the Holocaust. I feel like that dates his character in a way like, can he still be alive? Or like he's got to be approaching like 90 now. Like if he was
He died a couple times in between.
Well, that's true, he
so
did.
That didn't count. The times that he was dead, like reduced.
But he's 90 with the physique of a bodybuilder.
He's so buff
He's
in the
still-
new cartoon.
He's buff in the comics, and it's like, come on. Like there's
You know what? His
Anyway.
friend's legs don't work, so he needs to be able to carry him around in an emergency. He's like,
That's
I
fair.
could just pick up Charles if I need to.
Well, in the end of the Krakoan era that they just finished, the Jonathan Hickman run, sorry, spoiler alerts, Magneto kind of takes on more of an Xavier like philosophy about things. A real departure from his more like Homo superior versus humans, and that mutants are the superior race and that kind of thing. And he's kind of taken on more of Charles's ideology by the end of that whole story arc there.
Charles is so proud, I know it.
No, Charles, well, again, spoiler alert, he did some bad things at the end of that storyline, and he's currently being held in a facility by Reed Richards and Tony Stark, and all the big brains of Marvel have imprisoned him for what he's done.
Because I'm pretty sure Magneto was dead before then. They went to get him to be like, Charles is messing things up. You got to come back to life or something.
He did, yeah. Magneto did die in the recent things.
They had to tell him Charles was like wrecking the X-Men universe.
And they brought him
like, I
back,
guess
yeah.
I'll get back up.
So this is one of my wife's biggest gripes about comic books and the movies and everything is people dying and then coming back. She's like, nothing has any consequence. And the alternate universes, she's like, there's no consequence. They can just bring people back. Like if they,
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but
That's why we love it. Like, I would be so mad if they killed them off and they kept them killed.
I'm going to loop back to that, but I want to answer this question too. I was going to say, I feel like when you think about like, should they do something? You're like, government wise, I'm sure people are like, no. But the citizens are probably like, yes, please come save me. I don't care if my government says we're
Right.
going to fight with another government. I'm in danger.
Right.
Like the civilians want to be rescued regardless of whether or not the accords are going to happen in like.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I do feel like you were saying like in Civil War it didn't matter. And arguably I think that was kind of the point when they wrote that movie. I think they were like, people aren't going to care. And that's why when you watch that movie, you realize they strip it down the whole movie.
Yeah.
Until the very last end of that movie is just two guys punching each other for a very specific problem that actually does have, you're like, oh, I am kind of on someone's side in the, should I have told you my best friend killed your parents when I found out 3 years ago? Yeah, Steve, you should have brought that up.
Sorry, I'm Team Cap all the way.
No,
Cap could do no wrong.
it's insane. He did not think to tell Tony about that at any point.
I guess.
Well, he knew Tony would.
Except like Tony could have had time to process that besides being showed a horrific video by the bad guy. Why did we have a video of that? Why is there a tape?
plot.
Right.
Plot.
Why would there just be a random?
I mean, I guess to make sure it actually happened.
I don't know.
To be like, no, he definitely did it. But like, okay, sorry.
No, that's great. No, but back to your point in Civil War, I think it's not fair. Like when General Ross is running off the list of things, he's like New York, Sokovia, and he starts naming all the things like where the Avengers have been and where there's been disaster. But like New York was not the Avengers' fault. There was an alien invasion happening and they stopped it. Like if they didn't stop it, they wouldn't be having that conversation. So to list that as being somehow their fault just made no sense to me.
Yeah, because like what did they tell the world that like, yeah, we had Loki but it was actually a trick and he escaped? Like, did they tell everyone that? Because like I wouldn't, if I was a secret organization, I would have told nobody nothing.
Right.
So maybe Ross really thinks it was them because he was told the Avengers wrecked the city.
He just has that thing about the Hulk because of that movie
His
that
daughter.
I feel like 5 people saw besides me. I liked the Edward Norton Hulk movie.
I
do too.
I think that was a good one. I like the Hulk movie.
I feel like everyone just ignored that one.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but then they like recast them, and I was like, it doesn't feel like it's the same guy. But I guess each superhero will have to ponder, like Uncle Ben said, with great power comes great responsibility.
Or, you know,
My
that guy
favorite
in the end.
reaction to Civil War in the comics was Doctor Strange, because the Illuminati met up and discussed it. And then Doctor Strange went, "You guys are fascists. I'm going on a hunger strike." And then he did that.
Yeah.
And then they came to his house and they're like, "Hey, you should stop doing your Doctor Strange thing." And he said, "Ha, stop me." And they couldn't. So they just left him alone.
One of my favorite reactions was Danny Rand as Iron Fist. They went to him and they were like, "You have to register as a superhero." And he goes, "Well, I am registered in martial arts. I'm a trained martial artist. That's my registration." And they were like, "Huh,
Yeah, because he's just
you
a
got
guy.
us there." Well, he
He got little powers, but like,
yes.
you know, he's mostly just a guy.
Yeah,
With an iron fist.
with an Iron Fist.
Well, see, that's like, I always thought it's funny in the comics. They'll talk about how could we avoid civil war, and then they're like, there's this one universe where Tony was born as a woman, and instead of fighting, girl Tony and Steve just got married. And I'm like,
Is this like fan fiction?
no, this is like a real thing they said in the comics once, and I'm like, what are they trying to say here?
That there's some tension between
like,
the two of the characters.
If they could have just worked it out another way instead of punching each other. Apparently, I thought it was so funny that that's a little canon thing on the side. They're like, "Don't worry about that universe. It didn't happen. They just got married," and everyone's like, "What?"
But what was Tony's name?
I think it was Natasha.
Oh, it was Natasha.
Oh, it should have been Antoinette.
Yeah, Antoinette.
Or something. I think it was Natasha.
I mean, it could still have been Tony. It
With
could
an
have just been
I,
Tony
yeah.
with an eye. Yeah.
I feel like it wasn't like Natasha or something though. But they were like, "Oh, it's fine. They're just married in that universe."
Or they could have flipped it and Steve could have been like Stephanie or
Yeah.
something.
Oh,
I don't
like,
know.
what a weird decision. And that was also funny because at the end of that comic, at the end of Civil War, was when Steve got shot with a time travel bullet.
Yeah,
Sorry,
something
it's a
weird.
spoiler, but this is like an old.
I mean, that comic's been out for
Yeah.
probably a good 10 or 15 years now. So
Civil War movie. Like, cool, what happened in the comics? And then everyone looked at it and they're like, okay, so they're not doing any of this.
Yeah.
None of this is making it into the movie.
I mean, it never does.
No, I mean, that's like, some people get mad, but I kind of like in the Avengers movies, they took different runs of the characters and mixed them into one Avengers, because like Clint having a family is from like a different run of the Avengers than like the main run.
that might have been the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah, like-
but in the Ultimate Universe, his family is somehow murdered at some point, I think.
Well, it's because it's the ultimate. It's the ultimate. Is the Ultimate Universe the one where Tony has cancer?
Don't remember.
There's one where Tony is. He's like Iron Man. He's like, I'm gonna die any minute now. Might as well be Iron Man.
I feel like in the Ultimate Universe, I thought he was more of an alcoholic. In the 616, the main Marvel universe,
He got over that.
Tony, got over his alcoholism, but in the other one, I think he still drinks.
I like when the name Ultimate is in the title. It doesn't mean that like you just like you'll see that and you like if you've read comics, you know it doesn't mean like great things are happening. You know it means everyone is depressed.
Yeah. I mean, the Ultimate Universe was crazy. It was so good. They revamped Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, the Avengers were a whole different thing. And then they just started having these big events and killing characters left and right. I think the Blob eats the Wasp at some point. It's insane, like what they got away with in that series.
Say how your wife doesn't like when they kill people. See, and I know people complained about the ending.
It doesn't like that they kill and then bring them back.
See, I know people complained about the end of Endgame, but from
Old Man Steve?
yeah, and also that Tony died. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
It might all get cut out. I don't know. But the fact I, as a grown woman, understood that was definitely them being like, listen, people, if we leave them alive, or we're like, they both retired, people are going to be like, why didn't Iron Man and Captain America show up to help fight?
Right.
So they're just like, they are out of here. Like, they
Yeah.
can't come. Sorry, they're not showing up. Like, I understand why they were
I
like,
mean,
right?
Steve can still show up. 90-year-old Steve.
But it just feels very funny that they definitely, I think, were like, let's just make sure this ends in a way that no one will ever complain that why didn't we bring them back? 'Cause, like, in a comic, it doesn't matter. They're drawn.
In the comics, there was the Old Man Steve like storyline where Captain America Steve Rogers was depowered for a while, and then he led a group of secret Avengers. He was just the man behind the curtain and sent different teams that he put together for special missions. One would have Black Widow and Beast and Moon Knight, and then they would have another. And so it was cool. I liked it. I thought it was a good story.
Them to be happy and retired and alive.
Like, I want them to do that, but I also understood that, like, from an audience point of view,
Yeah, they had
you
to.
have to deal with people just constantly being like, this is why I live in the Avengers fanfiction universe from 2012 where everyone lives in the tower and they're best friends.
Yeah.
We just stay there forever.
Yes. Well, I feel like I wasted my time if I follow a character and then they kill them off. I'm like, well, that was a waste of the last 12 years of my life.
That's how I kind of feel reading the manga Black Butler. I'm like, I don't think this is going to end well.
Probably
I've
not.
read way too much of it to give up.
I kind of wanted them to do Ironheart, who showed up in Black Panther 2,
Yeah.
Riri Williams. I kind of wanted there to be something where Marvel writes it in there where there's some type of like coding challenge that Tony Stark put out in the world before his death, and then she solves it, and then he becomes the AI of her suit like he does in the comics.
He is her suit's AI, which is amazing.
And then that would be a way to keep Robert Downey Jr. in there, as we'd still get his snarky Tony Stark comments here and there, but he wouldn't have to suit up. He could maybe do some motion capture or something, or just do the voice work.
Imagine him doing winning
He could do the
commentary.
voice work like the guy who played Vision did for all those years, and he just came
Yeah,
into
exactly.
like the studio for like 45 minutes.
He was like, oh, I'm done. And they're like, okay, now you're going to be a person. He was like, what?
Right.
You have a body, you're going to date Elizabeth Olsen.
And then we'll kill you, and she'll enslave an entire town. But it's okay. She's a good person.
It'll be like that sometimes.
We really could have just wrote questions of where do you come down on these moral decisions in each of these movies.
Yes, that would have been.
Or like, well, we could have probably talked about for 2 hours, how do you feel about Batman versus Superman?
Again, with the Scarlet Witch, she brought Vision back. I don't know why she had to have the whole town looped in.
Because it wasn't real. He wasn't real.
She was
Well,
depressed. And
I know, but he
depression
could have just been in her own little house. She could have just kept them in.
She was kind of uncontrollably using her powers.
Okay.
Like that's kind of why at the end too, when like she gets kind of taught how to do stuff, she actually realizes like maybe I should read a book or two. I was like, I don't know, maybe go see the other guy in the team who does magic stuff and be like, hey, can you teach me something?
Right, but then she reads.
Yeah,
but then she
Doctor
gets like
Strange was totally sleeping on the job for that arc. That's his whole job, is to stop things like that from happening.
He's just too busy eating his favorite Avengers flavored ice cream.
Yeah.
Too busy drinking beer with Thor.
There's so many little things. I mean, like, I like all those Batman movies that come out, but I think about so many little things in the Avengers movies. I love them so much. I love that Steve left Tony a flip phone to call him on, and like, Steve, it's the year like 2000.
My favorite thing to this day, well, one of my favorite things is the conversation when Thor, Tony, and Steve are walking, and if you put Mjolnir
In
in
the
an
elevator.
elevator,
The elevator move.
it'll go up. And he's like, but the elevator's not worthy. And that's the type of questions that are just nerdy pleasure.
This always makes me think. I remember coming back from Iron Man 1, and my mom was like, how was it? And I was like, Mom, it was so good. Because we like, other stuff we had pretty much been watching had been like, it had just been Spider-Man coming out.
Yeah.
I like Spider-Man, but I was so tired of Mary Jane and Peter Parker's drama. So like
Yeah.
Tony and Pepper's adult, like we probably shouldn't date, but we like each other, felt so much more mature and not dragging the movie down. Like I remember telling my mom how happy I was. I'm like, I think they're gonna get together in the next movie, but like it wasn't annoying.
In that same vein, when you said Mary Jane and Spider-Man, I think the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, was that the most recent one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was so sad. Like that he was so erased, and then goes to see her and is like, I'm going to talk to her, and then sees that she's okay, but she still has some injury from the big thing on the Statue of Liberty, the big battle there, and then just decides she's better off without him and leaves. Such a heartbreaking ending to that movie. I think the same thing with Avengers Infinity War. Like when they lose, you're like, oh my God, like
They're in their depressing goth
yeah,
phase.
we're
The silent. So like I try to see a lot of these movies opening day or like
same. Yeah.
Yeah.
and like the silence in the theater after Infinity War, or like I've never heard people scream so loud as
Yeah.
in Endgame or No Way Home when like Toby came out of that portal.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You would have thought like the theater was shaking.
Well, that was in Endgame when people came back.
Oh yeah, when
oh
you
my
heard,
God.
you heard on your left, the screams had
Yeah.
started, and I was like, oh my God.
Or when Cap picked up Mjolnir,
Oh, yeah.
that was everything 10-year-old me had ever wanted to see in a movie. That and him yelling Avengers Assemble. Well, he kind of whispered Assemble, but he yelled Avengers. But still, that was
heard him in their spirit, in their heart. People say theaters are dying, but I like seeing big, fun movies like with other people. I like everyone being excited. I can't wait for Deadpool and Wolverine or Venom 3. Gonna see that in the theater. Everyone's gonna cheer. I'm gonna be like, yeah, like being around people sometimes.
Wait, there's a third Venom? Was there a second Venom?
Yeah.
There was. Oh, wait, what was the second one? Oh, was that with?
Only in the comics.
Yeah.
He's basically
He's actually in that one too.
In the
like,
comics, he's had multiple though. There's like a whole bunch of offspring.
There's a bunch of little names the babies have.
Yeah, I can't remember any of them right now.
Technically, yeah. He
reproduced.
He reproduced by budding in the comics, but in the movie he just bites him.
Yeah, I think it was Eddie Brock was in a cell next to Cletus Cassidy.
Just like
And Venom
popped off a baby Venom.
Yeah, something weird like that.
Casually, as you do. I don't think Eddie knew he could do that at the time.
I don't think anybody knew that he could do that at the time, except whoever was writing that.
See, I'm flashing back to Spider-Man 3 when they were like, let's have Venom. But then Venom just says I all the time. And I'm like Venom has like very few characteristics. And like one of them is he says we. They're two people.
All right, I'm looking up Venom's children. So Carnage was the first. Scream, Lasher, Phage, Agony, and Riot are the Venom offspring.
See, was in the new Spider-Man video game. Which you need to play video. You need to play video game. Get a PS5. I don't care. It's $700 or whatever. Go buy one and get the Spider-Man games. We have them. You can borrow the Spider-Man games from the library for free.
What? Our shameless plug for the library.
Comics and comic book movies and comic book video games.
You see, now they have to keep this section because we plugged the library.
Yeah.
And you can view them on a mobile app like Hoopla.
Oh yeah, I read a lot of comics on Hoopla.
Yeah, same.
That's where I read all my comics. It's very convenient.
That's where I read like 90% of the Ice Cream Man comics, which are not superhero comics, but
I don't know what that one is. Casey, have you read? I know you were saying you're more of a DC fan. Have you read Superman, Son of Kal-El with Jonathan Kent as?
I haven't read it, but I know it's John's boyfriend is in it, and he's from the what's it called? It's on my to be read list, and I do know generally what happens, but I know it's
actually
really
good. It is not like a typical punch 'em up superhero story. Like it's really a different take on superheroing.
But do they punch people? Because that's why I'm there.
There's this really good,
sometimes.
really cute comic for Superman, and it's when Superman was a teenager in high school, and it talks about suicide and depression and also just like general hate in people and how to help solve that, because you can't solve that with fists, and it's really interesting. That's
kind of the gist of the Superman Son of Kal-El storyline. Like he will arrive at these scenes where like there's a metahuman doing something and you're like, well, Superman would just fly in and punch this guy in the face, and the end of the story, he'd be like, case closed, and he'd fly off. But Jonathan Kent comes in and he's like, hey, what's going on? And the person's like, I can't control my powers. And then he's like, okay, I'm gonna help you, like, let's just chill out, like, and then he talks them down, and so it's not like
that's what Static Shock was like. It's or Batman Beyond a little bit. You remember that cartoon?
I like Batman Beyond.
Yes, with Terry.
Yeah. I know people didn't like the ending where he was in the cartoon and they were like, he's actually technically Bruce Wayne's son due to...
Yes, he's like a clone of, or like some kind of genetic clone of Bruce Wayne or his...
The reason it didn't make it, would not hold up in court or make any sense.
I think it was
they like injected his dad with like Bruce Wayne's DNA.
Yeah.
And like, that wouldn't work.
But it was Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
It was Amanda Waller that took his DNA.
He did another Batman because Bruce Wayne was old.
Yeah.
So that does have one of my favorite little bits where you're like, Bruce Wayne, you're not okay. He gets mind controlled or something, and he figures out something's going on, and they're like, how did you know? He's like, how'd you figure out you weren't okay? He's like, because I kept calling myself Bruce. Because in his Bruce Wayne's head, he only calls himself Batman. And I'm like, sir, you need therapy.
This is true.
I'm like, you're 65 years old. You can't be still like, come on, Batman.
Come on, Batman. Gotham needs you.
Oh no, that's made me think of that Flash movie that just came out.
Oh no, old man.
Batman. I love.
Haven't seen
I
it
love
yet.
Michael Keaton, but like
Don't.
he didn't need to be there.
Don't see the Flash movie?
Yeah, don't. It was.
All
Don't.
right.
It's simultaneously not as bad as I thought, and also worse than I thought. In a
Really?
way that doesn't really make any
I haven't
sense.
watched either Aquaman movies either.
The first Aquaman movie I really liked. I haven't seen the second one yet. It's on my to watch list.
I think I read that one was more of a bromance.
I know,
So
I like the guy
the buddy
who plays his brother,
Yeah.
like because he was
Patrick
that's-
Wilson.
Yeah, he's Night Owl in Watchmen.
Yep.
So I'm like, I will probably like this movie. It's just one of those like long superhero movies, and I'm like, I gotta commit time to watching this.
It just gives me Black Panther underwater vibes. Like that there's a kingdom that nobody knows about, and like
Yeah.
so I don't know. That's
The thing, last time we had a snow day here. I stayed when I was home. I watched Suicide Squad, the Harley Quinn movie, and The Suicide Squad is like a triple feature.
okay.
And you know what? Those movies do make sense all together, but it is getting better.
I do like the two Suicide Squad movies. Did not care for the Harley Quinn movie. I do think Wonder Woman was great. Both Wonder Woman movies, I think, were good. The first one was definitely good. I don't remember the second one too much, but I think it was okay.
Your Harley Quinn opinion is incorrect. That's okay. I will believe you.
I don't remember much of Harley Quinn.
I really like that, and I thought
Okay.
I did not like the second Wonder Woman movie, but
Was
I
that
did not see it, but I heard she made some questionable choices.
oh yeah, there was some. We can talk about it.
wait, now you're gonna have to clue me in later too, because I don't know.
I think it was like, should she save Steve Trevor at all costs?
Steve Trevor was in some other guy's body.
Is that ethical?
He just woke
Oh,
up and he was Steve Trevor and did not know.
He was not Steve Trevor.
And then at
Okay.
the end, you find that guy again. He shows up and he's like, "Hello, it's me." Who was not Steve? You know, it's just like he's walking around like kissing on Diana, and like that's not him. You know, like
gotcha.
it's not his body.
Okay.
Some questionable ethics if you thought about it for like longer than like 10 seconds.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I don't really remember that one too much. But yeah, I thought the first Wonder Woman was really good, but
It was good, except the God of War was kind of over the
Aries.
top. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was over the top.
underwhelming or
I also was like, why is Lupin here? Oh, he's the bad guy.
Yes.
It's like when you watch a movie and there's like one actor. It's like when you watched Winter Soldier and you're like, Robert Redford, you're the bad guy. Because he's the most famous actor here and you met him 10 minutes into the movie.
But I admit I did not see any of Robert Redford's movies outside of.
Oh, I just knew him as like a famous actor.
I know
But-
he was big, but I've actually seen it.
But like if you're putting him in this movie, he wasn't just there to like stand around. I was like, oh, you're gonna be
right.
the bad guy.
He's not just scenery.
He should
He's not
to
just
check
there.
and leave.
Right. Well, that's the thing with Harrison Ford is going to be in the new Captain America movie. He's replacing
Guys, as
yes, whoever played.
Did he die?
He
He
died.
passed away. Yeah, I can't think of what his name is. But anyway, R.I.P. Yeah, William Hurt.
William Hurt.
Yeah,
John
John Hurt's
Hurt?
the guy.
Yeah.
John Hurt's the British guy.
Yes, that's
He's
right.
like a doctor,
Um,
I think. The doctor.
So in the comics, Ross becomes Red Hulk. So people think that he might become the Red Hulk in this. But-
Harrison Ford will show up and be like, okay, now CGI me, I'm gonna leave.
Yeah. Harrison Ford always just seems like a grumpy old man to me. Like, I don't know if it's just an act.
You know what? I feel
But-
like he doesn't love being in like nerdy stuff, and that's when people love him.
Right.
He'd much rather do like Air Force One or like, you know, there's other The Fugitive, and I think everyone's like, be Indiana Jones, and he's like, okay.
Be Han Solo.
You know, that last Indiana Jones movie was fine. I feel like people were really hard on it, but it was fine.
Did you ever watch? There was like an interview for Blade Runner 2049. Is that what it's called? With Ryan Gosling, Harrison Ford, and a woman. She's British. I think her name is Alison Hammond, maybe. But she's great, and she actually like makes Harrison Ford laugh, which I'm like I've never seen. Like he's just always so grumpy and like. But she's great. So if you ever get a chance, watch that interview. It's really funny.
I guess to wrap it up, what would be your favorite superhero movie? Since we've talked about so many, pick one.
God.
I printed a list
My
of movies.
favorite
Actually.
superhero movie?
Yes,
Can it be animated?
sure.
Hmm.
But I thought you'd have an answer because you were like, can it be animated? Oh, yes. Oh, well, then it's, and you were just like,
No, I don't actually.
Well, while you're thinking, mine would probably be the Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
That's a really
That's
good
my
one.
favorite. I love Sebastian Stan and like the whole movie. It was just fun.
Sorry, I literally printed out a list of the movies.
Oh my God, you really do have a list.
Because I was because I was trying to figure out a question, and one of my questions was going to ask about about movies, and I was like, never mind. But I do print out a list of all the movies. It's so hard to pick up. It's like asking to pick a child. like,
I
Choose your favorite child.
like who would you say from this burning building? I'm like, I don't know. Iron Man 1, Venom. Sure. Like,
I mean, I feel like Iron Man 1 and Venom are not in the same.
no, they're not.
Iron Man 1 is way better than Venom.
Oh no, but Venom's
Sorry.
so good because there's no second act of Venom. It's like they hate each other and then they're best friends, and you're like, how? And it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Magic of movies.
They
baby.
just are.
I enjoyed Venom because it sounded like it would be awful, but it was good.
I really liked the Batman, which I feel like no one else.
I liked
No,
it.
with
Batman's really good.
He's a great Batman. He's a terrible Bruce Wayne.
When I think about the end of the movie where he's helping the people and then they're on the roof and the lady won't let go of him to go with the helicopter because she's afraid and she wants to stay with him, I'll sometimes start crying because of how, like, I don't know, like in that movie is like Batman learning that like if he's like he needs people to like he needs to become like a symbol for hope for people too, besides just beating up bad guys. And the fact that that lady is like, I don't know these paramedics, but I know Batman and I'm safe with him, made me sob in the theater, considering how afraid people were of him literally like an hour before that moment. Sorry, I'm really emotional about that movie.
I thought of my answer, and it's cheating because it's two, but they're so connected that I have to say them. It's the DC showcase for both the Phantom Stranger and the Spectre.
Okay, I don't know those two.
They're great. They're very yin and yang characters. The Spectre is this green guy, and he's literally the manifestation of God's vengeance. And
Okay.
he does a lot of horror movie stuff. And then the Phantom Stranger is a guy, he's not allowed to interfere with anything. So he just commentates on the sidelines, and I love it.
Just to rattle off a few of my favorites, I think Captain America Winter Soldier was great. Thor Ragnarok, the first Iron Man, the first Guardians of the Galaxy was amazing.
So Blade's also good too. Everyone ignores Blade, but Blade,
I liked the
Blade's a
Blade.
good movie.
I liked the first
I'm
Blade with
excited
Wesley
for this one.
Snipes. When Casey said she was picking two that were linked, I was like, I could go Infinity War and Endgame.
That's practically one movie.
Yeah, one like 6-hour long movie. I think we're just gonna go Deadpool, just because it was so outside of what Marvel had been doing and so true to the character. I'll go with Deadpool.
I think that wraps it up.
Thanks so much for chatting with us, you guys.
Yeah,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
thank you.
Fun.
It was.
Thanks to anyone who's listening.